Well, this morning it's the calm before the storm. Storm Ciara is about to arrive. We've just got a few hours before we get the wind at up to 70-80 miles an hour, so we need to get going. Today I'm going to do some pruning of the fruit bushes. It's an important time to get this done before the sap rises and it's too late. I'm going to use various implements, but mainly secateurs. So you have some choices here. A good pruning knife. This is an Opinel one, and serves the purpose of pruning, especially down low where you can use the hook. This is a standard pair of secateurs, but very small, and I keep those in my pocket mainly because sometimes I want to prune and I haven't got the right implement, so I tend to keep this one on me all the time. This is a pair of snips. This is useful for small, narrow stems, and works very well. And this is the workhorse. This is a pair of Falcos, and they are long lasting, and basically with secateurs you get what you pay for. And the important thing about these is all the individual parts are replaceable, so if you do have a problem then you can order and replace the replacement part, and they should last a lifetime. This is the Falco number 9. And lastly, if you've got any branches or areas that have got a really thick stem, then you can use a saw, and I tend to use a saw that's fit for purpose, and this is a Bacco Laplander, and this very sharp edged tooth style saw is very effective indeed and goes through thick stems very quickly. So we're going to start with summer fruiting raspberries. Now this is a toughie for me because these raspberries weren't mine last year, and I need to establish what the 1-year-old growth is, because it's the 1-year-old growth that actually has the fruit. Anything else I need to remove. So I need to try and identify that. I've done a bit of research and it's actually quite difficult to see any examples of that scenario. But I've noticed that when I come to examine these stems, the brittle ones are really old, and I think the 1-year growth are that much more flexible. So I'm going to try and identify all that 1-year-old growth and remove the old. In an ideal world, once the stems are fruited in the summer, after they've finished, you would then cut those stems back down to the ground. That helps you clearly to identify the 1-year growth the following year. So wish me luck. It's quite interesting that this growth is extremely brittle, and that to me is clearly older than 1 year. So I'm going to take out that sort of growth from the plant. This too is clearly that much more brittle, and this one is very much more flexible, and I am hoping that this is going to be the 1-year-old stems. After using that technique for just a short while, it is apparent that this older wood is almost dead in the centre and very much more brittle. So I'm going to use that technique to identify which ones to remove, and that will enable me to get all the growth into the new stems. There's clearly quite a lot of work to do in here, including removing all this grass, and it's going to take me probably a few months before I actually get this under control. But it's important that I get this pruning done now in early February. This pear tree was amazing last year, and it gave us 20 to 30 fantastic pears, and you can see how it's become quite a tangled mess. And what I need to do now is make sure that I don't have any of these branches that are crossing other branches, and that way we don't get any abrasion and we open up the pear tree so that it can prosper. So wherever I've got a branch like this that's crossing the others, I'm going to take it out just above 2 buds and discard it, and I'm going to try and make sure that that crossing over, there's another good example there, is removed. Here you can see a great example of what can happen where these 2 branches cross. If I lift that one slightly, you can see the damage that's occurring as a result of the abrasion between the 2 branches. That's what we're trying to remove whilst opening up the branch. Here you can see another example of this branch crossing this one, and we're going to take that one out. And this one again is just going to grow into the path of this branch. I think there's a case here for taking out this one, which is quite a poor branch and has got some other stems coming out of it that are causing problems. So for this, I'm going to use the saw. So I'm going to carry on with this pruning of this tree, and I'll bring you back once I've got to the point where I'm happy that we've got no crossing branches and the tree's been opened up appropriately. What is important with any tree that you prune like this is that the open wounds that you've caused by pruning, you need to seal in some way so that you don't get any infection into the wood and any disease, and that gradually causes damage to your tree. I use a product by Bayer Garden called Seal and Heal, and it's a bit like an old plimsoll shoe brush. You fill it with the substance from inside the bottle and then push it around the open wound so that it seals it. I know that some people use Mucuna honey, which has similar properties. This I find to be very successful. And that's where I'm going to stop. The tree's now much more open, no crossing branches, and hopefully it'll grow on nicely in a good shape this year, and hopefully we'll get lots of good fruit. Now with these red currant bushes, they're very mature. What I'm looking to do first and foremost is remove any diseased wood. If you have any new growth, you can keep the plant compact in the summer by cutting back to 2 buds. If the branches are cut like that, you really want to cut to an inward facing bud, and that keeps the bush nice and compact. If the branch is falling out, then an upward facing bud is an option. Your objective here is to open the bush, get air amongst it, and remove that diseased wood. Here you can see a branch that's coming out from the base. It's fallen right over. It's going to make it difficult for me to move in between the bushes, and it really isn't going to serve me very well. So I'm going to remove it as low down as I can with the saw. And likewise I've got another one here. You can see here this diseased wood just needs removing. It just attracts disease and blocks the air. And there's just too much going on here. So many branches all in one place, some crossing others. So I'm going to thin this out, and I'm going to elect to take out this older branch and let these newer ones start to flourish. Here you can see another seriously crossing branch, and I think I'm going to take out this older one and probably right to the base. So there we have it. That redcurrant bush is now considerably more open and airy, and the diseased wood has gone, and there's just a couple more of the branches that I might take away. Maybe this one, which is crossing over, and this, which has got some diseased wood on it and is obviously sticking out into one of the roots I take. So I've got quite a lot more work to do amongst these big old redcurrant bushes. I'll crack on with that and show you when I've finished. So that is substantially different now. A lot of the bulk has been taken out of the bushes, and to some extent the height's been taken down. Most of the diseased wood that I can see has been removed, and this bush here is a good example of what follows that sort of pruning. You can see all these young shoots that prospered last year as a result of the pruning that I did then, and a lot of buds on this bush, whereas the ones that I didn't prune last year extensively are not showing that sort of growth. So it's definitely advantageous. It will have an impact on the fruit this year, but it will also have a positive impact on the fruit long term. And you can see some sort of idea of what's come out of those bushes, and also that group of branches as well. So much more in control, and hopefully the bushes will prosper for the effort. You can see on this apple where I've got one major branch crossing another, so I need to do something about that drastically. You can see the damage that's being caused, and in the interest of shape is whether I take this one out or this one. In reality there's not a lot between them, but I think I'm going to take this fella, and I'll take him down to here. Otherwise, this tree has been pruned last year, and the shape's coming slowly but surely. So with blackcurrants, it's not dissimilar to redcurrants. You're aiming to keep 4 to 6, sometimes 8 fairly young shoots, and as you can see, this is a very old bush with far too many branches and stems, and I need to clear out here, get rid of some of this crossing branches, get lots of air into it, trying to keep a decent shape and removing any diseased wood, much like the redcurrants. So there's a lot of work to do here. There's lots of old bushes, and I'm going to get underway and see if I can shape them up and give them a chance. I think probably it will have a great impact on the fruit this year. I think it will probably be a negative impact, but in subsequent years we should benefit. And certainly for the last 2 or 3 years, these bushes have not been very productive. can see more clearly now is these young stems coming up, and they'll be the future of this bush, and hopefully will mean that it prospers in due course. So there is the stark reality of what was amongst those blackberry bushes. In real terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 bushes that had just gone wild. It turned into major surgery because most of the branches were laying ground level. Some of them had layered and taken up roots. So we've really opened it up. It's going to have a huge impact on this year's growth, but I can see that in the future we should have some really strong and productive blackcurrant bushes, and you can see where they're budding. Wherever possible, I've left new growth like these, and they will make good fruit bearing branches in the future. There's still work to do in this patch for another day, and that will mean removing those stinging nettles, which will just take over given the opportunity. And this is, I believe, a rosemberry, and I've never had much luck with it, and I really need to do some research into what to do with it and how to make good use of it. If you've got any idea what I should do with that plant, then please add it to the comments below. I'd be eternally grateful for encouraging it to bear fruit and prosper. And if you think that it's really a non-starter, then it's time to remove it. I'll take your guidance on that. So it's a very different scene now, and I'm looking forward to seeing those bushes develop. Just to give you some sort of idea of what came out, looks like I've got a big bonfire ahead of me. So finally today on the pruning, these Bramley apple trees that have suffered from canker for the last couple of years, I'm going to take out these lower limbs and again open the tree up where we've got any limbs that are crossing, but basically get the canopy of the tree further up the trunk, and then of course follow up by sealing any wounds that I make. So there we have it. The Bramley apples now shaped. Lots of wood to move. The blackcurrants are transformed and will be really interesting to watch develop. The apple tree there is coming together. Still some decisions to make about some of those limbs, but it's coming on. The Redcurrants, again very much a different shape, opened up, all the diseased wood taken out, and hopefully they'll prosper. My pear tree looking shapely and ready for another season, and quite a lot of work for me to get on with the summer fruiting raspberries, but I can see the way forward with that, and it shouldn't take too long. So it's time to batten down the hatches now. I think the storm's coming, the wind's picking up, and I'm fatigued, but happy that I've got a lot done. So that's it for today, and that'll give you some idea of how much pruning went on. Clearly a lot more than normal, but then the blackcurrants contributed the most towards that because they were so ancient and so overgrown. So at some point I've clearly got to have a bonfire, and we'll do that at the appropriate time within the council regulations. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.